right, welcome to another edition of the Plus One segment. So, past couple of Plus Ones, we've been recapping The Last Dance. Last week we had Rob Parker. Now we got Michelle. What's going on, Michelle?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
I look like a castaway right now. I haven't had a. Today marks 2 months since I last got a haircut, and it's.
You're saving money though.
Yeah, but when it opens back up, that guy's gonna ask for like $100 for a cut.
Probably, and you're probably gonna pay him that much.
Most definitely, it's worth it at this time. All right, but we getting into this Last Dance. What all sports fans have been waiting for. They gave it to us early. What was episode 5 and 6 last night?
5 and 6.
Woo! Every week they just get better and better. These episodes, and my favorite part of it is the music.
Yeah, that's what everyone's talking about. Everyone's talking about the music. The soundtrack has been one of the most talked part about this entire documentary, which is pretty cool. I didn't expect that.
And each song, I feel like it fits the situation or whatever they got going on, because it just seems like it's a perfect fit for whatever situation they're talking about with each song.
Yeah, and it's always a smooth transition, which I like. I'm like, okay, they had somebody in there making the right decisions.
Yeah.
Music.
Yeah, I forget the person's name, actually. I completely forgot the person's name, but they said who it was a couple of years ago on Twitter. They mentioned the person's name who was in charge of that, but he's doing a pretty good job. What were some of your takeaways from last night's episode?
Oh, man. It's funny, like you said, it's getting better and better every week. And then I left watching the last 2 episodes. I was like, oh, yeah, these 2 are the best ones. And I'm probably going to feel the same way next week. However, obviously, Kobe Bryant, that stood out. Number one, their relationship and how Kobe, we knew Kobe idolized Jordan, but what we didn't know so much was about their relationship. Mm-hmm. And to see that was awesome. Obviously, we wish Kobe was here to watch this documentary with us, like a family, like we've been doing on Twitter. But that's it out. And then, getting into Michael Jordan's gambling problems. A lot of people question if we, he just likes competition. But a lot of people question if we would get into that. And it was cool that we did get a glimpse of that. I don't know if Michael Jordan was as honest as some people wanted him to be, but I'm happy they touched upon that, because that is a part of Michael Jordan's career and legacy when you think about it.
And when you owe $57,000 to some guy named Slim, it's just it's like, Mike, what you doing?
Yeah.
And in my lifetime,
his name had to be Slim.
Right? In my lifetime, anybody that's named Slim or nicknamed Slim is a sketchy person to begin with. So
yeah, it's never a good thing, Mike. It's never a good thing.
But he did touch on it. He did say, I like how he explained. He said, I'm not here gambling my life away, gambling my house away, or gambling my championship rings, or gambling my family away. Which, when people are really into gambling like that, addicted to gambling like that, they do those type of things. I mean, he definitely had a gambling problem, but he had the means
exactly
to deal with the problem, because Charles Barkley always said it, I can gamble because I have the money to gamble.
Exactly. And David Aldridge talked about it a little bit. He was like, this money for Michael Jordan that he's losing, to the average person, that's a lot of money, but to Michael Jordan, it's not.
Yeah.
So, like you said, he had the means to do it, so he did it.
Yeah, and I think it was definitely got blown out of proportion, because the way they were reporting it, you would think that he was doing all those stuff that gamblers do. They would just like gamble certain family things away or stuff like that. But his addiction to competition, he will just, if it's $20, if you bet him $20, he'll go with $20, just like with the guy the security guards.
Yeah, he was throwing coins, betting money to throw coins.
Yeah. So it was, Mike did have a little gambling problem, but going to Atlantic City after a playoff loss, and then bouncing back the way he did. I mean, nowadays, if somebody did that, it'd be, whew.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
but I think the funniest part about that was he was down 0-2 to the New York Knicks.
Yeah.
Has anyone ever respected the Knicks at any point of this franchise history? It's just so funny. He was down 0-2 to the Knicks, and he went to the Atlantic City, no problem whatsoever. And then the way he bounced back after, that became the talk of the playoffs. He drops 54 points.
Yeah.
Like he had to give them something else to talk about, and he sure did by dropping.
The Knicks been catching straight bullets all this entire documentary, and the New York media, they definitely, we know how ruthless they are, and it backfired. It backfired in a big way on them because after all those stuff they were writing and saying, he didn't want to do interviews no more. I think he didn't do an interview until game 1 of the finals, and he just, whatever hope the Knicks had, it just went out the window. Big thanks to the New York media for giving this guy something to be mad about.
Exactly, and I think that's the last thing you can do or should do to someone like Michael Jordan, or a player that's so good. You have all the talent in the world, and they're still finding ways to be motivated, and you're giving them a reason to be motivated. That's dangerous. You can't stop that because he's already great. Now he has an extra reason to push it and to go that extra level, to go that next level. And that's what they did. That's what they gave him. And it was over for the Knicks after that.
And I think the Knicks were really feeling themselves. They're a little bit full of themselves. They're up 2-0. They're thinking this is their year. They think they have the team. And then Charles Smith can't dunk the ball in the last second. If you saw, he wanted no parts of that. John Starks, hot
Did you see
and cold.
a foul? You think there was a foul?
There was no foul. You got to finish that. You're right there. Finish it.
Some New York Knicks fans think there was a foul. I didn't see one though. If there would have been a foul.
If I'm a referee, I'm not calling a foul down there. You're right underneath the hoop. It's an easy.
You gotta finish. You gotta go strong.
Yeah, you can't get bailed out on that. Come on. Knicks fans are always finding excuses. That's why they're Knicks. Yeah, too bad for them. And also what I liked, what they got into was the Republican buy shoes things, because I never knew the full details of that. I just always heard people always making jokes about Michael saying that, Republican buy shoes too, or Mike's a Republican, or Mike doesn't support Democrats or whatever. And then I'm glad they gave a full context of what went on with that, like, because I think he said that was him joking around with the guys. Yeah. And it was supposed to be off the record. But then when you look at the race in his hometown, or his home in Charlotte, or his home state, you got a racist who's still there, and then you have a black guy that's the upcoming, and you would think he would endorse him, but Mike wanted to stay away from that type of stuff as far as he could.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me, obviously we're from New England, so we have to bring him up. It kind of reminded me of Tom Brady. Tom Brady stays away from, those type of conversations, even though he had a MAGA hat and blocker. He stays away from those conversations, and I feel like Michael Jordan did the same way, even though he did make a donation.
That nobody ever brings up.
Yeah, no one ever brings that up, And that's why it was so good to get the backstory, to get the full story, because all we had was that quote floating around without the entire backstory.
Yeah, because I didn't know about the whole race, and I could see why folks were upset with him, because you have a African American that's running, and the guy he's trying to take over is completely, fully 100% racist. So I could see why people were upset, and would just be like, Mike to endorse him publicly. That would have maybe boosted him up some more. But they touched on it. You can't be, for some reason, it's hard to beat racism, and racism for some reason in politics always wins, and you saw it with that race. So I'm glad we got full details of that whole scope, and it seemed Mike, you could see when he was in his hotel room, he was tired.
Oh, that's another thing that I took from this, and I'm like, I wonder if Jerry Krause, in a weird way, gave Michael Jordan a reason to leave. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That he was tired, like just listening to him talk. The man was tired.
Yeah.
He's reached all these goals, can't leave without all these people surrounding him. He's working his going, 110% every night playing ball. He was tired. And I get it. I get the reason why he felt like he had to step away. Obviously, we're going to get more into that next week, but he was in that hotel room just drained.
Yeah. And I think the narrator said it, once he leaves his hotel room, it's like got so many obligations, you got so many people. It's like as soon as he step out, there's a crowd. As soon as steps out the elevator, there's a crowd. As soon as he's trying to get on the bus, there's a crowd. After games, there's a crowd. And they broke down some of his time. Like he'll spend 10 minutes here, then he'll do his media obligation, then he'll spend another 10 mintle doing this, and then another 10 minutes doing that. So that for somebody is that for anybody it could be. It's just it'll wear you down. I mean, we see players right now like LeBron with how he's been carrying the league for the last 15 years. He's had so much obligations. That's the part of basketball that wears people down. Not the game, it's the obligations off the court and all that.
Exactly. And I think that humanized Michael Jordan a little bit. You just think he's just going out there and dropping 30, 40, 50 points, but that's not it. There's just so much that he has to do off of the basketball court that a lot of people don't think about, and a lot of people don't take into account when you think about the obligations or the responsibilities that an athlete has to do, and especially an athlete of his caliber.
Yeah.
So much different than, a bench player.
Yep.
It's a different lifestyle that he had to be accustomed to, and it was wearing him down, like you said.
Yeah. And I also felt bad for Tony Kukoc. In the 92 Olympics, he goes in there never meeting his future teammates at all, not knowing the friction between those two and ownership. He goes in there, he's thinking about to play against the best players in the world, show what I got, and then these guys are just, man, they were just on him, and they made his first experience playing against NBA players one he'll never forget because they were just on him.
Absolutely. And I felt bad because he was just catching straight bullets because it was Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen taking out their anger on Jerry Krause. I really felt bad, but they let him know about NBA ball. I'm happy for him that he bounced back because, wow, that defense, they were swarming.
And you got to remember, it's not like they were average defenders. You're talking about two all-NBA defenders.
Yes.
Jordan had a Defensive Player of the Year on his resume already. So it wasn't like he wasn't going up against average defenders. He was probably going up against two of the best perimeter defenders at that time. And
and especially in a league that he wasn't used to seeing that kind of defense. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're getting that, and then you're getting two great defenders just putting you in jail all game because they're mad at Jerry Krause.
Yeah, my favorite part was Kukoc just like, I've never met the guys, and I don't know why they're playing me like this. I didn't know what was going on over there. Hey, man, you should have read the paper or something. But
yeah, poor man.
But you're right. He did have a good second game. They still got blown out, but he showed that he could play with those guys and he could play on that level the second time. Because if you would have had to judge it off the first go around, it was like, ooh, he might not survive. But
he needed to get that respect, Michael Jordan's respect, and he did in the second game.
Yeah. Also, Dan Marley caught stray bullets too.
Yeah.
Poor guy. So I saw someone post on Twitter that the comment about Marley being a great defender was made in '87. Now we're 6 years later, and he still remembers that. That's a different level of petty.
It's a different level of petty, and like I said, Michael Jordan was already great, and he was finding so many different reasons to get up and be motivated every game. That's a different kind of animal you're playing against at that point. And you can't stop that. Like I said, it's just tough to defend because now you're not just defending a player that's good. You're defending a player that's great, and pretty damn motivated.
And the worst part, the funny thing is, Dan Marley was not that bad of a defender. He was a good basketball player, a great shooter. He was a good defender, and man, Jerry Krause really had people catching bodies because of him.
Yeah, he did. He did.
That was tragic. And then the matchup with Charles Barkley, because Mike said he was mad that Charles got the MVP, so he was gonna get that MVP. And it turned out to be a good series, and I just like how he said, I'm only packing one suit because I don't intend on playing 2 games in Phoenix, because they knew they blew it at home in Game 5. So he was just like, let's get this out the way, because you don't want to play a Game 7 on the road.
Yeah, and when your leader's talking like that, when you're on a team and you hear your leader, your best player talking like that, that's all the motivation you need, because you know he's going to bring it, so you have to follow that same level of greatness that he's about to put on the court. And when he says one suit, that means one suit. We're finished closing this thing out.
What you got to admire about the Bulls is in their first three-peat, how they were just able in the finals, the performances they put in the finals, because after the Lakers went up 1-0 against them, they won 4 straight wins. Then when they go against Portland, Jordan and Clyde Drexler, that's the matchup, and then Jordan just shut that down in another 4-2. And then with Phoenix's 4-2, it's like they go to another level in each of their finals.
Yeah, and it's like they don't panic. They didn't panic, which is what you want your team to be able to do, to be able to recover and come treat every game like one game. And that's what they were able to do, which is why they were such a great team.
Yeah. And then, so what they talked about, what made Jordan so great was his endorsements with Nike. So originally he wanted to sign with Adidas. They already said Converse they already had enough guys. They weren't going to be able to have the money or be able to sign him. Adidas, they didn't have the funds. They didn't have the money to sign him. And
they fumbled the bag. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they did. And then Nike, his mom had to convince him to take the meeting, and that turned out to be one of the greatest things, because what they were projecting $3 million in sales, and then they sold $126 million just with those Jordan 1s.
I'll never say this in front of my mom, but mamas know best. And I'm so happy that she made Michael Jordan take that meeting, because now I have all these collection of J's that I probably wouldn't have if it wasn't for her. She changed the game. We got to give her props and a lot of respect for making Michael Jordan take that meeting.
Well, something that should be talked about, how those Jordan 1s are probably one of the worst sneakers to play basketball in.
Yeah, I've never played ball in one. I played ball in one pair of J's, but I never understood why people would play ball in J's. They didn't look comfortable to me. I'm like, they just look like something you can wear but not play ball in. I was a high top, hyper dunks kind of girl.
I think the 11s and the 12s are the best ones to play basketball in. Those ones are the most comfortable to play.
11s, your ankles are just exposed. I can't
tape it up. But the ones, no. Those are extremely horrible basketball.
My favorite pair of J's, though, I would never play basketball with them anyways, because those are my favorite.
Yeah, my favorite gotta be the 4s.
I'm not a big 4s fan. I bought 2 in my lifetime, but not a big fan. Straight 1s, girl.
Yeah, those are like, Air Force, the high top Air Force copy that.
Maybe that's why. I don't know. It's like, I just love it.
Yeah, those were something else. I think one thing they could have got into was when they were talking about the activism, they could have got into Craig Hodges and how he was basically exiled from the NBA for his activism. I think he had like a interview where he was like with Louis Farrakhan, and at that time, anybody associated with Farrakhan, Pro Sports League wanted to stay far, far away from. But I think they could have because Craig Hodges is not mentioned at all in this, as if he wasn't on that team.
Well, you also got to understand, Michael Jordan had the final say, So he was probably like, yeah, we're not going to put this in. We're not going to put him in, you know. But I wonder if having that conversation would have strayed away a little bit from Michael Jordan. And that's probably a conversation Michael Jordan also didn't want to have.
Yeah, probably not, because that is an important thing to remember about some of those players on his teams, especially him. He got, Craig Hart. Yeah, what happened to him was kind of sad, but he wasn't like a great basketball player. He was a decent basketball player, but definitely, if he was a great basketball player, they probably would have gave him more leeway. But we just seen if you're not, then you're gonna get
different. It's different when you see the things teams or leagues will allow if you have talent, if you're really that good. I think.
Yeah, I mean, they gave Dennis Rodman a vacation in the middle of the season.
Yeah, mm-hmm. So, they sure did. 48 hours.
Which that was still baffling to me that they did that. But
I can't wait for a player next season to try to pull that off.
We already talked about this. We already know. I already know a couple.
It's funny because you're not the only person that say Kyrie Irving would definitely pull something like that off.
LeBron would pull something like that off too, because he's done it before.
Yeah, and what can you say? It's LeBron James.
Yeah, he went on sabbatical for 2 weeks, I think. He went on 2 weeks sabbatical in the middle of the season to Miami. Nobody ever brings that up. I don't know why. When we talk about
LeBron James,
which is very interesting. And they also got into the book, The Jordan Rules, with Sam Smith. I have not read the book. Have you read it?
I have not read it.
I have not read it, but the book came out at an interesting time because the Bulls are up here. Jordan's popularity is going through the roof, and then this book comes, and it seems like it was like trying to bring him down or trying to bring the team down. It just the timing of the book was very interesting, and the whole subject matter of the book was interesting. A lot of good stuff in there from what I've heard, but it was just looking at the turmoil that was going on with the team that not a lot of people were talking about was interesting.
It was Horace.
He said it wasn't him.
That was my favorite part. It was okay. Okay, but that all the book did was just give the Bulls another reason something else to rally around to continue winning.
Right. My thing, what I don't understand with teammates, or if it was Horace that that gave all the information or whoever did. My thing is, why are you so determined to be like, look at me too, I'm part of this team, I'm doing this, like I want some of that spotlight too, because you got to have an understanding. No matter what you do, the spotlight's going on the guy that brings the bill, that pays the bills for the NBA. So I never understood why certain players do that. It never made sense to me, especially when you're winning too.
Yeah, and I guess, jealousy makes people do crazy things. If anything, you should be thanking Michael for helping you win and for giving you all this media attention that you wouldn't have if he was on another team.
Yeah.
You're jealous about it. And, you would like for certain players to see that you're having a different kind of opportunity to play with one of the greatest of all time, and cherish that moment instead of being jealous about it.
And it's not like he didn't get his due, because I've heard Jordan plenty of times say that Horace was an integral part to the team, but it's like, what more do you want? Do you you're getting your credit? You guys are winning. You guys are playing well. That stuff with basketball, also football too, happens in football, just in sports in general. When certain players do that, I just never understood that. It's like, you got it good. Why do you want to mess it? Why do you want to screw
exactly.
it up?
Yeah, it's something I never understood either. That's something they probably won't realize how good they have until their career is over and they start on the whole team.
Well, there was that clip where they were doing the captain introduction, and Jordan, when they were playing Orlando, and Horace Grant was on that team, and Jordan was like, "We used to see this guy all the time in the playoffs. Now we don't see him anymore." I don't know what happened.
Yeah. He probably missed Jordan at that time.
Yeah, because the Magic had two good years, but they had that year in '95 when they knocked off the Bulls to go to the finals. And then after that, that was it. After that, the following season they lose. They get swept by the Bulls. Shaq goes to LA.
Like,
Penny gets hurt, and what
and
they
then
thought was going to be the
boom.
next dynasty, it just
Yeah.
all collapsed like that. Mainly because the owner was cheap too. But
Conversation
you know,
for a different
yeah,
day.
yeah, definitely. Woo! And you touched on it earlier with Kobe Bryant. A lot of people weren't ready to see Kobe Bryant again. You know what's crazy? I remember that All-Star game because I watched it. Because I think that was the first year Kobe and Kevin Garnett made the All-Star team that year. I vividly remember it. And it was just interesting to see because Kobe said, I wouldn't have 5 rings without Michael Jordan. Now, the Kobe Bryant fans who I argue with occasionally like to tell me that Kobe was probably better than Michael Jordan. And it's just like, even he knows that. He'll say that, but I think that was a great thing for him to say, to acknowledge it, because I'm sure he heard all the comparisons, people saying he's a Mike wannabe, or he does everything like Mike. But I mean, hey, what is it? Copying is the best form of flattery, or something like that. I forget the saying.
I'm trying to think of it. I can't remember it.
Yeah, I can't remember either.
But no, you are so right, because if we're being completely honest, Michelle in high school was definitely like, Kobe wants to be like Jordan, which is not a bad thing at all, because if you want to be the best, you have to study the best.
Yeah.
And that's what Kobe did. And to hear him give props to Michael Jordan about, the fact that he won his 5 rings, saying everything you see from me is because of Michael Jordan. And it was just great to hear. People talk about the Kobe sticking his tongue out like MJ, going ball like MJ,
right?
The jumpers like MJ. He really studied Michael Jordan, and my favorite part was to hear how he was studying Michael Jordan during the games.
Yeah.
When they met at half court, and he asked him about how do you lock out your defender during your turnaround jumpers, and he had no problem telling him, which is refreshing to see, because I don't think that's something a lot of athletes who are great, who are at their prime, want to share or willing to share with other players. Like I said, we're in New England, so I got to talk about the Patriots. Yeah. Brady is not helping another quarterback while he's playing. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So to see Michael Jordan do that at the top of his game for somebody who really admires him was really refreshing.
And he also told him to call him if he needs anything. Like, there's so many stories about players that maybe they meet one of their favorite players and they get shunned, or it's not what they expected. But for Jordan, and so we got to remember this: Jordan is, he's still contemplating on leaving, which turned out it was his last year. But for him to be able to do that for Kobe, because Kobe was still figuring out. He was only 19. He just had a situation in Utah. I mean, this is coming up, the Utah air balls and stuff. So he was still trying to figure it out, and just for him to be able to, if he needed to call Michael Jordan for any advice, that's, hey, who wouldn't want to?
Yeah, and especially Kobe came in with, it wasn't a young league like we see right now where everyone's young, in their 20s. He came into a league at 18 years old, very young, and to have an older player, not just an older player, the greatest player of all time, embrace him and help him, that's something probably Kobe would never imagine to happen. And that's an invaluable relationship that he was able to get with Michael Jordan.
Yeah. Also, can we talk about the interview with the sunglasses with Ahmad Rashad? What was that?
Sunglasses. How am I supposed to take you seriously? You set up the interview by yourself.
Randomly,
and threw sunglasses on. We're supposed to take you seriously, Mike? Really, Mike? Come on, man.
Yeah, like, come on. He's so Mike. So this documentary has given forth to a lot of memes, and I don't even know if he notices this. He's just became like a meme god because we just have so many opportunities with memes. Like, why do you have the sunglasses on during the interview inside? What are you doing?
Seriously, because I'm not taking you seriously. I'm just looking at you like
before game 1 of the NBA Finals too.
Yeah, because at this point I'm just thinking, what are you hiding behind the sunglasses?
He might have been drunk. He might have been smoking something that he was supposed to be smoking. A guy that had his
lying a little bit.
Yeah, that had his eyes red. But I'm like, Mike, come on, man.
Come on, man.
Take them
sunglasses off.
That's like a picture. That's like a chapter out of the T.O. book, because T.O. is probably the only person I know that would do something like that. There's a few players, but T.O. is the first person that comes to mind that would just call for an interview and sit there with sunglasses.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and Ahmad Rashad too. Ahmad Rashad is so a lot of people don't know Ahmad Rashad used to be an NFL player.
Yep.
Nobody. I put that up on on Twitter one time that Ahmad Rashad was 4-time Pro Bowler for the
Pro Bowler. Yeah,
Minnesota Vikings. Not a lot of people know that, and he also, I think he was a 2 or 3 sport star in high school, and a 2 sport star in college. So a lot of people don't know that part about Ahmad Rashad. They just think he's the inside stuff guy. Just does the NBA interviews.
He's an athlete.
Yeah.
Game.
Yeah, and I think him. Every time I see him, I'm like, this dude. I swear, this dude's like, he's seen it all. He's always around. He's been around for so long, and it's like we need to give him his props too, because he's like one of the greatest.
Absolutely, that's someone I remember a lot when I was first started getting into basketball. That's someone I remember watching a lot, and he, like you said, he deserves his props because he's been in the game for a while, and he's been doing it great.
Yeah, definitely. Also, there was one thing that also stood out to me was Jerry Krause. I think it might have been when they won their 2nd or their 3rd championship, and he went out of his way to just talk about how great the organization is, and he's always just trying to make it seem like the organization is what brought this championship, and the players is just like secondary. And I saw that interview, and I'm just like,
absolutely, it's flipped.
Yeah.
It's flipped, and the best coaches will tell you that they're not the ones going out on the court or on the field to win these games. So the fact that he didn't, I just don't feel like he gave the players on the team enough credit. Like he really wanted to talk about the organizations, and maybe that's because he wants, to also give himself a pat on the back because he was the organization. But it's a player that's going out there day in and day night, every night, to get the job done, to make the organization look good. It's doing it. Yeah,
like Jerry Krause, he would be like, it's no argument that the moves he made were great moves. All the decisions he made with the picks and the decisions he made with the draft picks, picking Tony Kukoc, getting the players to surround Jordan with. But it's just the other stuff. If he had done that and kept quiet and just stayed in the background, he'd get a whole bunch of praise. But it was just like he wanted so much. Me. Look what I did. Look what I did.
Yeah.
Me.
He still probably would have gotten them hits from Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Jordan was clowning him a lot. But yes, I think people would have viewed him differently and maybe given him a lot more credit, as opposed to now where everyone's just talking bad about him, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. But well, he ain't here, so I mean, I'm not gonna kick a man while he's not here. But it's some of the decisions and some of the things he did are warranted for the criticism is warranted for that, and also with the media aspect, where Jordan decided to not talk to the media. See how blatant and disrespectful he was at that point, because it came to a point he wasn't even letting some of his teammates do interviews with them post game or after practice. It came when him and Scotty were going to the bus. He started honking the horn when they was trying to ask.
He had tea time. He was not going to tea time. Right. And as from a media perspective, that's hard when you have a job to do. When you an article and you can't get the player to talk to you. It's tough because at the end of the day, you still have to do your job.
And you got deadlines. The editor
Yeah, you
don't
got
care.
deadlines. Your boss isn't gonna care. You gotta get the article in. You gotta get that soundbite. So when you don't have the player talking to the media, it's tough.
Mm-hmm. Especially at that time too, because print was so print was through the roof at that time, man. There was so many print journalists out there covering teams, and if they don't get a good quote, it's like, my
Yeah.
story my story's not gonna be that good. So I gotta understand the frustration, and I gotta understand each side to it, because it wasn't like it was all of them, but it was just a certain amount. They just ruin it for everything. But that's just how the game is in the
Yeah.
business. You're gonna get lumped into one, because even the Sam Smith book, he was saying he was getting death threats, and then some of his fellow medias kind of shunned him away. They didn't want no parts of him. So it's like when you do something controversial, this is bound to happen.
It's a tough game.
Yeah, it's a tough
Cold
game.
world.
Very, very, very much so, very much so. But besides that, how through the first 6 episodes, what's your overall assessment so far?
Well, Michael Jordan said like people wouldn't like him or view him a certain way after they watch the episodes, and I don't feel that way. At least me, and from what I've been seeing on Twitter, there hasn't been a lot of negativity or towards Michael Jordan. I think the one time I really saw something like negative response was when he said Scottie Pippen was being selfish.
Yeah.
And then everyone was bringing up, the payroll, but that's the only time I've seen it. But I like seeing Michael Jordan in this documentary. I love that he's, in a way, the documentary is humanizing him.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I like the most about on Sunday's episodes, because we got to see the side of him talking about how he was tired. And, I think it's important to humanize these athletes a lot of times, because people just see them as a win or a loss or what they do on the box score.
Yeah.
So it's so important for us to be able to see these athletes in a different light.
Yeah, and I think President Barack Obama, he said it, I completely forgot the quote, but he basically said, they get praised, like people like him, Michael Jordan and Oprah, but as long as they don't do anything confrontational or controversial, I should say. And that was definitely we definitely see that, because we just saw some of these folks trying to bring Jordan down. And it hits home with African Americans, because so many times we'll see African Americans who, like, they came up, maybe they came up from poverty or something, made something of themselves, everything in a positive way, and then somebody tries to find something negative about them and make that be the story to bring them down a lot.
Yeah, or pull up a tweet and
yeah, and that's the sad part.
They look for something. Yeah, it's the sad part. They look for something to break you down, and that's unfortunate, because like a lot of people say, they'll build you up just to bring you back down. Mm-hmm. You can't be high for too long without them trying to find a reason why you need to come back down.
Facts. And also, I agree with you about this not, Jordan's concerns about this making him look bad. My thing is, I had a conversation with somebody. If you're a leader on a team sport or any type of thing, if you're in business or something, you have to be a jerk at some point. You just have to be a jerk. It's, some may not like it, but sometimes when you need to get your point across, if you're doing it one way and it's not working, you just have to be a jerk about it. And like, we're here for the same thing. And the point of it get made, but it just happens. Like, I think some people are too sensitive.
Yeah, and especially as a leader of a team, you gotta sometimes you have to let your teammates know, right now we're not friends. I'm the captain, so you're gonna have to look at me differently than you will, and not be sensitive about it, and not feel like I'm just trying to bring you down. Because at the end of the day, if you do well, I do well.
Yeah,
that's the important part about it.
Yeah, and if anybody that's played team sport, they know fight happens at least once or twice. At some point, there's a fight between teammates happens, I don't know, like once or twice, or maybe it happens all the time, but it just stays within the team.
Yeah.
Besides that, I've been in situations I've seen a fight happen in the middle of a game between teammates, and everything was smooth sailing after that. But those type of stuff just happens. You can't. When you're around people for so long and for so many hours in the day, it's just bound to happen.
Yeah, especially if you become like family. Families, they aren't perfect. So
Yeah.
you're going to fight like sisters on a basketball team. You're going to fight like brothers. But what's important is how you recover from it.
Yeah.
Can we let that go and go win a basketball game?
Mm-hmm.
That's important right now.
Yeah. And then lastly, so we're getting closer to the 90, to the last three-peat. They're gonna go over some of the matchups with Seattle and the two matchups with Utah. But there's one thing they never talk about when they talk about the second three-peat, how they went from 72 wins to 69 wins to 60 wins. That in itself is quite impressive for a 3-year stretch. I don't know any team that's done that in a while. Maybe there's been teams that done that, but I don't know. I don't know how many teams that's done that.
Yeah, that is something you actually don't hear about a lot. But just the level of dominance they're able to maintain is just out of this world.
Yeah.
Crazy. And it's just unfortunate that when people talk about it, they're like, yeah, but it was at a different era. They're playing against this type of player. It wouldn't be able to happen now. And sometimes you just want people just to appreciate it, especially this documentary. Like the comparisons I'm getting on Twitter with Kobe and Michael Jordan and LeBron James fans. I'm like, let's do the comparisons next month. Let's do the debate next. Let's just enjoy it.
Well, no, they can't. They have to. They're just relentless. They can't. What I'll say, when it's time to argue with LeBron fans about being the greatest of all time, I just let them know you can't be considered great if you let JJ Barea and Jason Terry outplay you in the finals. That just cancels everything out, because come on, man, what are we doing here? what are we doing here?
Yeah, what are we doing? But yeah, no, I agree to a certain extent. But I tell people, when people try to have the debate with me, my cop out is, I didn't see Jordan during his prime. So LeBron James is the greatest player I've ever watched. Yeah. My cop out. He's the greatest player I've ever seen. This is the generation's greatest player. That's my cop out. Because sometimes I'm just like, what's the point?
I don't do a cop out. I just tell them. Listen,
I know you don't. I know you got time.
There's nothing wrong with being second. There's nothing wrong with second or third. It's just there's levels.
Second, you're just the first loser. But yeah.
Hey, there's levels. There's levels. We seen the levels. I mean, hey, if LeBron could find motivation into every little details.
That if we're really going to debate and compare the two, I just don't see that same instinct, that same motivation Jordan has and LeBron James.
Well, LeBron's not petty.
He's not
petty.
I mean, dare we say he's too nice?
Hey, he's too nice, but when he's not nice, when he goes into mean mode, it's a whole different ballgame.
But that's the thing. I don't think we talk about Game 6 when he was playing for Miami Heat against the Boston Celtics. That was a different level of LeBron James. But is there a time in Michael Jordan's career where people say that game is where he went crazy? He went into a different level. I feel like he was always on that level. He didn't have to find a different one, just go take over mode.
I forget who said it. I think it was Roy Williams. I think Roy Williams said he just never met a guy who just never turned it off.
Exactly. I'm not saying LeBron James turned it off, but he did turn it on to another level. I don't feel like Jordan ever had to do that because he was always on,
Yeah. For me, my greatest the greatest game I ever seen LeBron play was against the Pistons in that playoffs when he just went berserk and just put the team on his back. That's probably the greatest game I've ever seen him play. This is the, not even that 51-point NBA Finals game that game one of NBA Finals a couple years ago. That game against Detroit was just something else that I didn't see coming.
I'm sorry, Game 6 against the Celtics.
I blocked that out of my memory.
It took something out of me. Like, I was deflated. I remember that game because I watched it. Everyone in my house was watching it, but I wanted to watch it alone because I was a weirdo. I'm like, I can't watch it with other people. And I sat down, I watched that game, and I watched LeBron, and I was just like,
yeah, I tried to block that game out of my memory.
Oh, man, I was defeated. He just like, oh, my gosh.
And you know what was the worst part about that game? Celtics had a double-digit lead at one point in that game. Yeah, but
I need to try to block that game out too. But oh man,
that was that game. Let me ask a question. Before we get up out of here, had LeBron not have left? I know this we're supposed to be talking about The Last Dance, but we segued into LeBron somehow. But that's just how things work out. So, had LeBron not left Cleveland after the 2010 season, do you think that had he stayed, do you think he would have got a chip in Cleveland if he stayed? Because I honestly believe if he had stayed, he would have got at least one. Because
I would say one.
Yeah.
I would say one. But I don't think they would have went on a run that he went on when he went to Miami.
No, I think they would have got one. They might have been able to get two because when he left, if you look at the landscape of the East, the Celtics were declining at that point.
Yeah.
The Celtics were declining. I mean, who else was really in the East? I mean, the Bulls were on the come up.
It would have been good. It definitely would have been more open.
Yeah.
For other teams, but maybe one. Yeah. But you still gotta go play Western Conference team at the end of the day.
Yeah, but I think they matched up. They matched up better. Yeah, I think they matched up better with those two teams, with OKC and Dallas. Dallas might have beat them. Dallas may have beat them, but I think they probably them and if they had faced OKC, it would have been an interesting matchup. But I think he could have squeezed one had he stayed in Cleveland, because I never got why he left. Well, I kind of got why he left, but I was just like, I sat back and just looked at the whole landscape of the East. I'm like, they won 66 games. The Celtics are declining. The Magic, they did everything they can to screw up the championship roster they had. And then all the other teams in the East, Toronto, we know what they were at that time. Miami, they had Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade, but there was, it wasn't certain. So there was no certainty.
I forgot which sports reporter said this, but LeBron had to leave. And when he did leave, he grew up. And I honestly think him leaving was better for, I guess, the fans in general, because when he came back to Cleveland, he came back a different player, a different player, different leader. And that was important. That's an important part of his legacy. A lot of people say, oh yeah, he played with other great players. I'm not going to knock him for that. I'm not going to knock one for going to win a ring, because that's why you play the game. You play the game to win a championship. And that's what he did. And he did it at a high level.
And plus, they knew what they were missing.
Yeah,
they knew what they had. They were missing. And lastly, before we get out of here, some quick NFL. I haven't got your thoughts on some of the NFL news. You've been depressed the past couple months since Brady signed with Tampa Bay. Gronk signs with Tampa Bay.
It's so funny because I'm not depressed anymore. I'm more upset at Tom Brady.
But the landscape of the New England Patriots right now, what do you make of it? Because I'm already saying tank for Trevor.
I'm not saying tank because that's not who the Patriots are.
No, they're not. But
no, that's not who they are, and I refuse to believe Bill Belichick and his ego is going to tank. I don't see it happening.
Oh no, no, he's not going to tank.
This is a coach that thinks he can win without the greatest quarterback of all time. This is a coach, Butler, in the Super Bowl. I don't think he's going to tank. Me personally, when I look at the team, I'm like 4-12. Especially that schedule. It's not easy. And the AFC East is not. The AFC is the most. It's like the most balanced I've seen it in 20 years.
Yeah.
In 20 years, I think Bill Belichick. This is a Bill Belichick we saw win games with Matt Castle. So if Patriots fans are, you know how they say, and Bill we trust, and so we're going to have to trust in Bill Belichick. And is Stidham ready? I don't see it. I think he needs maybe 1 or 2 more years. But I think they're going to compete. They're not making the playoffs.
Yeah, they're gonna compete, but
that's about it.
All the quarterbacks they have on that roster, man, 7 wins is gonna be 7 wins. He should be coach of the year with
I know
what they have with the quarterbacks they have on that roster. I mean, Cam Newton is still out there. I know a lot of people are really down on Cam Newton for whatever reason. I'm a big Cam Newton fan. And he's better than whatever the Pats have at quarterback.
I'm all for taking a rejuvenated Cam Newton who feels like he has something to prove for a year. I'm all for taking it. Yeah. Only thing I'll say is a bright side about Tom Brady leaving is I think the wide receivers will have a better season. A lot of the problems, they were the worst group of the team last season. And I think a large part of that was because Tom Brady expected so much. The offense was so difficult, and Tom Brady was not saying after practice to work with guys like N'Keal Harry and Jacoby Myers. He did it for Antonio Brown, but he wasn't going to do it for Jacoby Myers. And I think one of the biggest reasons why Jacoby Myers became the talk of training camp last year is because he was catching balls from Jarrett Stidham. And now that he's going to do that on a consistent basis, they already have the chemistry. I think the wide receiver group will have a way better season this year than they did last year with Jarrett Stidham.
Hey, man. I saw Jarrett Stidham get pulled from a preseason game.
I know. Throwing that pick six. That's the one thing every Pats fan is thinking about, that pick six.
I watched him in college, too. Okay. This is why my facial expression is unamused with.
Well, his junior year was better. A lot of people say he should have left his junior year. He would have been a first-round draft pick junior year. That's what they're saying.
He should have, because some of those games against big teams his senior year. Woo! Well.
Oh boy, we're going to feel like Jets fans this year. I'm not ready for it, but Jets fans, I'm going to say I feel your pain a lot.
At least we'll be competing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Forget the Jets. All right, Michelle, let them know where they can find you. Plug your social media.
You can find me on Instagram at Michelle Fenelon TV, Michelle. That's the right way to spell Michelle. Fenelon, Fenelon.
All right. Thank you very much for coming back on. This is the second time, right?
Second time,
and hopefully next time them Everett High School boys will, we'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that. I got some things to say.
All right, you have a good one, Michelle.
You too.
You guys been watching Plus One. We are out of here.